Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular board meeting of Tuesday, January 30th, 2024 by the Daffenfield Catholic District School Board. All of the trustees are in attendance. Trustee Paula D'Amato Giovanozzi is online, so we are all here. We will start with our national anthem. Our national anthem will be sung by the St. Roch Catholic Secondary School vocal majors under the direction of teacher Jamie Marr. Please stand. Again, may I ask General Manager Campbell to please express our sincere thank you to the St. Roch Catholic Secondary School vocal majors. Thank you. So we will now be going to our. Let us remember the students, staff, trustees, and family members of staff and trustees who have recently passed away, and keep them in our thoughts and prayers. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and let them perpetual light shine upon them. May they rest in peace. Amen. I now ask Trustee Bria Corbett to please lead us in prayer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Creator God, here in this moment of winter's darkness, we pause to reflect on your light. With grateful hearts, we give thanks for your creation. Beneath the snow, you bless us with the seeds of promise that will break open again in spring. Open our hearts to a spirit of gratitude, that we may bring your light to others, and the hope that springs from your never-ending love. May our gratitude be sown to illuminate your goodness. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Okay, could I ask Vice Chair Thomas to please read the land acknowledgement?
We begin by acknowledging the land and our responsibility to care for, respect what the creation gives to provide us with life. This land upon which we live, work, and sustain ourselves is the ancestral and treaty land of the Anishinaabe, also known today as the Mississauga of the Credit, the rightful caretakers and title holders of the land. We also recognize that this land is rich in pre-contact history and relationship, which include Anishinaabe and Gahogwe, and since the European contact has and continue to comes for indigenous and non-indigenous people. As a responsible community, we believe all people are sacred and possess inherent and immeasurable worth and dignity. colonialism displaced and disposed indigenous people of their ancestral lands and continue to deny their basic human rights, dignities, and freedoms. We are committed to the sacrament of reconciliation, making repatriation and fulfilling our treaty obligations, duties, and responsibilities as outlined in the Idunaga dish with one spoon warm up. The treaty governs and affirms that we actively maintain mutually beneficial relationship and collectively respect and care for the land, water, animals, and each other in order to guarantee a good life for our future descendants.
Thank you, Trustee Vice Chair Thomas. So I just want to point out the top sheet has not been printed, but has been mailed to you. So I just want to make sure that you pull that up before I move to the next one. You all have it? All have the top sheet? Okay, so in the top sheet, we have added items to the agenda. L4A is already there. So L10A and the correction, which is the reordering of in-camera private items. And L10A becomes L10B and L10B becomes L10C. Could I have somebody move to add this into the agenda? Moved by Trustee Daryl D'Souza, seconded by Trustee Sean Xavier. All in favor? I don't see Paula's.
The chair, her hand is up.
How come we can't see on the screen? No, it was there earlier, but can we not see? Oh, there she is. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I can see. Okay, thank you. Carried. Oh, any opposed? None. Carried. Thank you. So the next item is the approval of the agenda. Have somebody move the approval of the agenda? Moved by Trustee Stefano Pascucci, seconded by Trustee Anisha Thomas. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. We do have a declaration of interest, item A7K1. So anybody want to declare it? Trustee Mary Pascucci. Thank you. Trustee Bruno Ionica.
Same items, Madam Chair. I have members of WACTA and 2021.
Thank you. Trustee Stefano Pascucci.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Same items. I have a family member who's part of WACTA.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none. The next item in the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the
Through the-
regular
Board
board.
the chair, a motion to move the declared item to A7K1 to K.
Okay, right. Okay, so I need somebody to move declared interest item to item K. Moved by Trustee Bria Corbett, seconded by Trustee Daryl D'Souza. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Director. We're now moving into the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting December 12, 2023, less items A7K1. I have somebody move the minute. Moved by Trustee Thomas, seconded by Trustee Bria Corbett. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Madam Director?
Good evening, and this evening I would like to note that we have a new member of our senior team. We welcome into our ranks a new Chief Information Officer, and I'm pleased to present this evening Ivana McIsaac, who actually happens to be a former graduate of Dufferin Peel. So welcome, Ivana.
Welcome. Welcome to Dufferin Peel family.
This evening as well, I'm pleased to share with you the focus of the pastor's remarks by Monsignor Shields, and that focus this evening via video is the saints.
We are made for service to care for each other. We are made to love.
This evening, my friends, our prayer will focus on the life and memories of the saints and their importance in our lives. The saints, who are they? What are they? Why are they so important to us in our ordinary lives? Why do we have so many of our schools named after saints? These questions and more deserve our attention and our prayer time as a community of believers. Pope Francis once said, "The saints are not unreachable or distant heroes, but people like us, and that if we think about it, surely we have met some saints even next door, generous people who, with God's help, have responded to the gift they received and have allowed themselves to be transformed day after day by the action of the Holy Spirit." The Church reminds us that saints are part of our faith, and women and men who have lived the gospel in their own times and places. Men and women who have put others before themselves. Women and men who give time and energy and love in helping others. As Catholics, we need models of virtue in our lives. We need the example of love and purpose, people who inspire us to do more in raising the spirits of life and goodness in others. Often we hear the words, "He's a living saint," "She's a living saint." A beautiful way of speaking about someone. Well, I'd like to draw attention to a man who has brought new life to so many people in the world, and his name is Dr. Andrew Simone, a dermatologist who has traveled the world in helping children live better lives. He leads the organization called Canadian Save Food for Children. And many people donate money, clothing, and food for these children in difficult circumstances. He is a remarkable man. Saints include men and women and children, and they are diverse in origin, coming from locations around the world, and once had the preoccupation of kings and queens, scholars, priests, nuns, widows, parents, teachers, who were simply ordinary people of profound faith and courage. Many are admired for their humility, their simplicity, and devotion to God. Catholics, other Christians, and even non-Christians often acknowledge the lives of these individuals as profound pillars of faith and use their lives and stories for inspiration in their struggles. So, my friends, we walk in the shadow of so many people who have lived their lives for others and are living examples for us to follow in their footsteps. Here's a little prayer that Pope Francis has for St. Joseph. Hail, guardian of the Redeemer, spouse of the Blessed Virgin Mary, to you God entrusted his only Son. In you Mary placed her trust. With you Christ became man. Blessed Joseph, to us too, show yourself as a father and guide us in the path of life. Obtain for us grace, mercy, and courage, and defend us from every harm. Amen. Thank you.
Life can be so lonely when nobody
Director kindly express our sincere gratitude to Monsignor Shields. As always, his homily is very inspiring.
Through the chair, I'd be pleased to do so, but I also want to note that that beautiful angelic voice that you hear in the background is our own Claudia Ferrero, which we took from one of the schools, who also sings at every one of our Wednesday morning masses here at the CEC in the chapel. And from time to time, we also have school choirs that come and really enhance the experience of our mass. I also want to publicly recognize the work of Amrita does a beautiful job of all the visuals in the video. These videos are all shot by her.
Oh, thank you. Before you go to the next agenda, I just want to share as well that when there's a Wednesday Mass, Monsignor Shields does the Our Father with the sign language. So I think whenever you get the opportunity, I encourage my fellow trustees, if you get a chance, try to join the Wednesday Mass. It's a beautiful way of saying Our Father. Thank you. Go ahead, Madam Director.
Through the chair, we have no awards or presentations this evening. At this time, we move to Section D delegations, and we have a delegate this evening. His name is Raheem White, and he's here to delegate in regards to anti-Black racism.
Welcome, Raheem. Just before you start your delegation, I just want to give you some guidelines, okay? I will review a few points related to the rules and process related to delegations. You will have 5 minutes to make your presentation. This will be timed. We will signal you when there is 1 minute remaining. If you intend to use or begin to use the name, title, position of a staff member or members, or any personal or other information with respect to another person, including a member of the board or committee, or a pupil or their parent or guardian, I will rule that you must address the committee of the whole in an in-camera session. Delegates can be critical of board decisions or make submissions with respect to a recommendation or decision. However, I will rule that your delegation is out of order and end the delegation if either of the following occurs. 1, the information in your oral speech is significantly different than the written speech provided. 2, your speech, notes, and/or other materials contain, or if you begin to use language that constitutes an invasion of privacy, breach of confidentiality, defamation of character, or is obscene, or discrimination against an individual or group of individuals based on a protected ground under the Ontario Human Rights Code. Once you have completed your presentation, trustees will be given an opportunity to ask you questions of clarification related to your presentation. So once questions of clarification from trustees are completed, your role in the delegation will be concluded, and you will be asked to leave the podium and take your seat in the gallery. At this point, trustees may choose to debate the issue and may ask questions of staff. It is important to be aware that a decision may not be made on the issue at this meeting. If there are no questions, please proceed with your delegation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, trustees, board administration, and all who are present. My name is Raheem White, and I'm a grade 10 student at Dufferin Peel High School. I thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. I'd like to express my concern and the concern of others about the steps being taken to identify, disrupt, and dismantle anti-Black racism in this board, or lack thereof. Anti-Black racism exists in educational spaces in this board. That's no secret. As Black and racialized students, while there are statistics to prove this, we don't need statistics to tell us that it exists, because we have our lived experiences to speak to. As Black students in this board, when spreading awareness about racism and discrimination, there are students being told to stop drawing attention to themselves. When initiatives are taking place in our schools to promote equity and inclusion, where teachers display visible and verbal discomfort and annoyance about these initiatives, as if they are a waste of time rather than a necessity. You have teachers using the N-word in class who are given verbal reprimands. You have staff members who have been documented using racist and prejudiced rhetoric and are transferred to other schools. Black students are disproportionately streamed into applied and locally developed courses by guidance counselors because assumptions are made about our level of ability. Students are subjected to abuse and humiliation in Dufferin Peel schools. And when our parents advocate for us, the police are called on them. That's an act of discrimination, and it is an act of anti-Black racism. This continues the practice of criminalizing the Black community. We often talk about decolonizing education and cultivating anti-oppressive environments. But when we're constantly criminalized for using our God-given voices, why would any Black student be motivated to report instances of racism? The inherent dignity of the human person is the foundation of Catholic social teachings. We as students are reminded of this every single day in our schools. Yet on a daily, we're treated like undignified human beings. Discrediting the experiences of Black students by characterizing them as I quote, inaccurate and misleading is not cultivating student voice. That's calling them liars. As Black students, we still don't see ourselves in the classroom. We don't see enough people who look like us in positions of power or authority. And even worse, we still don't see ourselves in the curriculum being taught to us. Monitoring and measuring the outcomes of students takes us further towards eradicating inequities than just denying the existence of discriminatory actions and policies. This board needs to increase its transparency. It needs to make a commitment to investigate all allegations of anti-Black racism and build some capacity to address systemic, structural, and individual racism in a meaningful way. Shifting our own people amidst allegations of concerning behavior leaves us Black students feeling as though this board is not serious about acknowledging or addressing the harm, both historic and current. If you sit by and watch the achievement gap for Black students grow even larger, you are committing a sin of omission. If you sit and watch the dignity of Black students be disregarded, you are committing a sin of omission. I urge the board to take concrete steps to hold those who put the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of students at risk accountable. I urge you to create a Black student success strategy in response to the census data that's now available. That would be a more effective way of addressing the gaps in education rather than the multi-year strategic plan, which, if I may, it's a replica of the previous one. I urge you to ask yourselves what's gonna happen when Black students start enrolling in other boards that are more proactive in their approach to dismantling and disrupting anti-Black racism. I urge you to revisit and reevaluate the operational leadership of this board, because it's clear not enough is being done to address the inequities that are present. You are failing Black students, and I urge you to act, and to act immediately, because justice delayed is justice denied. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any question of clarifications to Rahim? Student Trustee Bailey, Klein?
The chair, you mentioned that there's an achievement gap as it pertains to Black students compared to their counterparts. Do you have any statistics?
Thank you for your question. I'm going to quote from the approved minutes of the Black Community Advisory Council meeting on June 19, 2023. A researcher shared these findings. Kathy continued to share the census data and advised that the lowest scores for peer inclusion, that is how students rated what other students are doing at school to support school climate, were experienced by Black students. The lowest ratings for school support, that is what adults do to support the climate at school, were experienced by Black students. Students who had the least positive rating of having their own identity reflected at school were students who identified as Black. The highest levels of exclusion among the different groups listed were Indigenous students, and among the racialized groups were Black students. The lowest well-being experienced by students by students, by racial group were Southeast Asian students and East Asian students. The highest total absences were from both Black and white students. The lowest percentage of credits earned of those attempted, that's failure rate, is by Black students. The highest proportion of students taking university pathway courses were students who belong to a non-Black race. The highest proportion of students taking college track courses were students who identified as Black and white. And the highest proportion of students who were taking workplace track courses were students who identified as Black. And finally, the highest number of suspensions were among Black students.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of clarification? Seeing none. Thank you, Rahim,
Thank you.
for your presentation. Are there any questions to the staff? Student Trustee Bailey Klein.
The chair, what is being done to address the findings just mentioned by our delegate?
Through the chair, thank you. I'm going to ask Superintendent Max Vecchierino to respond.
So our school board has enshrined in its multi-year strategic plan through its yearly Catholic Board Improvement Learning Cycle some recent changes over the past 2 iterations, which both speak to our firm and explicit commitment to eliminate all forms of oppression and to work in a constructive way to getting my button to work there, and to ensure that this work leads to changes in achievement. As was mentioned by the delegates, the facts quoted were from our own census data, correctly reported. And we do know that students who identify as Black and Indigenous in particular have low rates of achievement and don't always feel that they're part of the community at school. So in particular, in the area of Excel, we work to make a difference and change in those areas. And in the area of respect, work to have positive and proactive measures put in place. All of this work is also included, reflected in our strategic plan to dismantle anti-Black racism, which is based on evidence, some of which was shared with you earlier, an ongoing review. So indeed, this year, we hope to review our strategic plan to dismantle anti-Black racism, work on curriculum that's reflected in planning for professional development for teachers, a review of central office as well as school, like local school plans, continued support of our Black Community Advisory Council and our Indigenous Education Council, an improvement in terms of our human resources practices with a view, where possible, to hire more people in certain categories so that students see themselves reflected. And we do a lot of work in what we call culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy. But what that means is, again, based on the words of the delegate, we are working in more and more to ensure that all people see themselves reflected in our building and in our curriculum. Our census did point, as was mentioned, to significant disparities in achievement and in feelings of inclusion. And what we hope to do in particular, and this was shared with our advisory councils as well, is conduct focus groups. And all that really means is opportunities for dialogue with members of specific communities so that we can hear more about some of the work that we can do. That being said, we're not unaware of the work that needs to be done and have been working to do it over time, but hope to be able to delve deeper and respond more fully.
Thank you. You have a follow-up question? Okay.
The chair, who's responsible for the transfer of administration?
Through the chair, that's an operational decision that happens at the executive level.
Okay, so I was going to ask you to elaborate a little bit more on what we are doing as Dufferin PL with the dismantling of anti-Black racism as related to our multi-year strategic plan. But I think you touched on most of it already. So thank you so much for that. And I believe we will continue to have in service once we have the focus groups and all that happen, right?
Absolutely, and we plan to share, so to the chair, we hope to share, not hope, we will be sharing this information with trustees as well. So the results of our focus groups, but focus groups in and of themselves aren't meaningful unless we also
No.
share with you the actions that we plan. So both will be shared with you at an upcoming meeting of the trustees.
Great, thank you. Madam Director?
Through the chair, we're now on section E, which is the reports from trustees for receipt. E1A is the Ontario Catholic School Trustees Association report.
Trustee Sean Xavier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, the Ontario Catholic School Trustees Association just completed our 2024 Catholic Trustees Seminar on January 19th and 20th. It was actually a great seminar. We had various presenters come forward. A few presenters that I'd just like to emphasize on. We had a keynote address on advocacy and communication considerations for Catholic trustees by Neil McCarthy. He was actually the Director of Public Relations and Communications for the Archdiocese of Toronto. So he actually really went into depth of public relations strategies and such when it comes to Catholic education within all of Ontario. There was also another presentation. This was actually by the Director of Education from Ottawa, and he actually went over artificial intelligence and how it affects our school system between JK all the way to grade 12. It went over the implications of artificial intelligence and kind of how in the education system, there's so much talk about how artificial intelligence can be used in bad ways, but there is so much good that can come out of it and how our teachers can be actually using these mechanisms to kind of further adapt our students towards 21st century learning. So that was a really good presentation. And then we had a few seminars, breakout sessions actually. One that I had the pleasure of attending was by Atul Kapoor, who is one of the professional registered parliamentarians, who went over Robert's rules and key practices for effective school board meetings. So that was a really good presentation as well. I would say that would be a good presentation if we as a board could actually get him to come down to speak on parliamentary procedures. And he really emphasized on Robert's rules and what the proper process was. He's actually also an ER doctor in Ottawa, but he goes out to different conferences to speak on Robert's rules and such. So this was our Ontario Catholic School Trustees seminar that happened. We have another, our annual general meeting is coming up May 2nd to 4th. So if you are able to attend, please do register. And that is all for today, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Are there any questions about the report? No, seeing none.
Sorry, Madam Chair. One more thing to add. Sharon McMillan, who is our communications director from Oxta, has sent out these presentations of these seminars that kind of occurred. So if anything intrigues you, feel free to go check those out. Thank you.
Okay, no questions, Madam Director?
Through the chair, 1B is the student voice report.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Good evening, trustees, staff, and public attendees. My name is Nathan Nguyen, the student trustee for DPCDSB North.
Ani, Bojo, Bailey Indigenous Cause, Mississauga, Donjiba, Mohawk, and Dow. My name is Bailey Klein, the Indigenous Student Trustee for DPCDSB. We're grateful to be here before you all today as we present to you our latest student voice report. As students prepared for their final exams, we did not host a student senate meeting for the month of January. However, we are looking forward to our next meeting on February 28th, where we will be combining with the Equity Student Council and Indigenous Student Council, where Superintendent Veccarino will be presenting on the latest version of the multi-year strategic plan. As we wrap up the first semester of the school year, we would like to thank all staff and administrators for the continued support of Student Voice and all the work being done in schools to ensure that our local communities are a welcome place for all.
On February 21st, we'll be hosting our 2024 to 2025 student trustee elections. In light of this, we encourage administrators to connect with any interested students, as the deadline for submitting the school student trustee candidate is February 14th. For any students who are interested in learning more about the roles, responsibilities, and time commitments of being a student trustee, we'll be hosting an information session on February 6th from 3:30 to 4:30 on Microsoft Teams. Information with regard to this session and the link to the meeting will be posted on our Student Senate's Instagram page. The Indigenous Education Council is also working to elect an Indigenous student trustee for the upcoming school year. Although their processes may be different, their timelines are the same, and the newly elected Indigenous student trustee will be shared alongside the name of the North and South student trustees at the March board meeting.
2 weeks ago, we had the opportunity to attend OCSTA's Catholic Trustees Seminar in Toronto. We heard various presentations addressing issues such as the use of AI in education and how demography in the recent years will affect Catholic education and our student population. However, our highlight of the weekend was the Student Trustee Workshop, where DPCDSB's very own Indigenous lead, Ms. Jody Williams, led a discussion on the beauty of Indigenous cultures and any further initiatives we can bring back to our respective communities. We would like to thank OCSTA for the generous invite, and we look forward to reconvening at their annual general meeting in May.
Finally, from February 8th to 11th, we'll be attending Asta ACO's Education Action Conference in Ottawa. We look forward to further professional development and connecting with fellow student trustees across the province. We'll be happy to report on our learnings at the next board meeting. That's the conclusion of our latest student voice report, and we'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Trustee Ainika?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the student trustees. My question or direction would be to staff if I could. Regarding the February 6th, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is the information session for anybody that would be interested, correct me?
Yes, so we'll be hosting on Microsoft Teams.
Can staff forward that information to each secondary school, make an announcement, as well as send it out to all parents so that they know, and possibly they could encourage their child to, because it's next week. It's close.
Through the chair, we have sent out that information already, but we will follow up with principals to ensure that it's widely communicated.
Okay, perfect. And we sending it out to parents as well?
Through the chair, we can send it out through school messenger as opposed to grade 11 and 12 students. 10, 11 students, grade 10 and 11. I'm just working backwards. Thank you.
I also just wanted to add that we also created some posts with the board's Instagram account, and we do share it with our Senate account and our board Instagram. So lots of students have registered already, and we're super happy about the turnout.
Any other questions? No? Madam Director, before we go to the third item, Trustee Mario Pascucci would just like to share information about the large board from Oxta.
Particular committee. And we're going to be setting ourselves down during the annual meeting to see where we should go. Some things have been brought forward already to the board of directors at Oxta. And I just want to mention that we're just give you a bit of a status of what's happening. So we're going to be getting together and discuss issues that are relevant and important to large boards across the province.
Thank you.
Through the chair, 1C is good news reports.
Any good news report? Trustee Anisha Thomas, followed by Trustee Pura Ainika.
The Lauren Award is a 4-year leadership enrichment program consisting of summer work experiences, mentorship, scholar gatherings, an annual living stipend, and a tuition waiver at one of 25 university partners. The Lauren Scholars Foundation is delighted to share that 3 outstanding students from Brampton have been selected as 2024 Lauren finalists and are within top 2% of applicants out of pool of 5,200 applicants and 90 graduating high schools. Lauren finalists for the class of 2024 have demonstrated their drive to step up in the face of challenges and positively impact their communities across the country. Out of 3 students in Brampton, 2 students are from Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board, have been selected as finalists. I would like to extend congratulations on this wonderful achievement to Arihant Boli, Notre Dame Catholic Secondary School, and Rihanna Ellis, Cardinal Leger Secondary School.
Thank you. Congratulations. Trustee Anika?
Madam Chair, on Thursday, January 18th, Dufferin Peel had another evening for parents on human trafficking. And Matt Richardson, according to the parents that I've spoken to, emailed me, texted me. They just thought that he was the best thing since sliced bread. Very informative. In some cases, there were more than 2 people on one line. In total, as a whole, we had 301 people online, and it hovered. Usually at a certain point, it drops off to the 150, 225. It hovered around 297, and it stayed there, till it got to 289. But for the most part, right until the very end, it hovered around that number, which is extremely impressive. Family and friends that I've invited from other jurisdictions, they often ask me, why do you guys always do stuff like that? And it says, because we have a staff, trustees, and students that we want to educate. And it was fantastic. I thought it was a wonderful evening. Extremely informative, like I said, and I look forward to our 5th one. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other good news? Student Trustee Nathan Nguyen?
Yeah, I'd also like to add that on top of the Lauren finalists from Brampton, we actually did have another student from Mississauga, from Loyola Catholic Secondary School. We had Sian Coutinho, so extreme thank you to her and congratulations.
Any other good news report? Oh, seeing none, Madam Director, next
Through the
item.
chair, we're moving to section F, which is the updates and information reports from committees for receipt. F1, found on page 24 of your agenda, is the receipt of the minutes of the Faith and Program Committee meeting of October 20, 2023.
Are there any questions, clarifications for that minutes? Seeing none, next item.
F2 is the receipt of the minutes of the Special Education Advisory Committee meeting of November 15, 2023 on page 33.
Any clarifications, questions? Seeing none, next item.
F3 is the receipt of the minutes of the Mississauga School Traffic Safety Advisory Committee meeting October 25th, 2023, starting on page 40.
Any questions on that minutes? Clarifications? No? Next item, please.
F4 is receipt of the minutes of the Special Education Advisory Committee meeting of December 13, 2023 on page 50.
Any questions, clarifications? Seeing none, next item, please.
Through the chair, we're moving to updates and information reports from administration for receipt. And G1 is the retirement of Alexis Galveo, and I'd like to pay tribute to Alexis Galveo. Before trustees is the retirement letter from Alexis Galveo, who is currently the principal of Holy Name of Mary Catholic Secondary School. She came to Dufferin Peel in '95, and over her 28 and a half years with the board has served in the capacity as a teacher, department head, academic consultant, vice principal, and principal. She began her career as a teacher at Philip Pocock, followed by John Cabot and Edmund Campion. She was also an academic math consultant for the board in 2007. In 2008, she turned her attention to a new calling, became a vice principal at Ascension of Our Lord, and in subsequent years, she has also been a vice principal at Notre Dame and John Cabot. In 2017, Alexis moved into the role of principal in the program department, and the following year, Alexis was appointed principal of St. Augustine. And after 5 years, Alexis began her latest journey, being appointed principal of Holy Name of Mary in 2023, from where today she has decided to retire after a wonderful career as a servant leader. Throughout her career in Dufferin Peel, Alexis has been a strong advocate for all students. Her deep love of children, her commitment to student achievement and well-being, as well as her commitment to students with diverse learning needs, has been Alexis's focus throughout her career. She leaves a legacy of excellence in Catholic education, coupled with a testament to the power of embracing care and gentleness as a framework for ensuring both students' success and well-being. She will be truly missed by staff, students, and parents alike. We wish her all the best as she embarks on her new journey.
Thank you. Are there any comments? Trustee Herman Viloria?
I had the fortune of working with Alexis for 3 years at Ascension of Our Lord. He was my vice principal. I found her to be very dedicated and very capable administrator. Wish her good luck and God's blessings. She retires, she begins her retirement.
Thank you. Trustee Stefano Pascucci?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Never worked with her, but she was my teacher, so I wish her all the best. My math teacher at Cabot. So thank you very much for everything, and wish you all the best in a very long and healthy retirement. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, again, we accept retirement with regrets.
Through the chair, we're moving to G2, another retirement. This is Tom Podobnik, and I'd like to pay tribute to Tom as well. Tom Podobnik has been a fervent Catholic leader and mentor who has dedicated an incredible 29 years to the Dufferin-Peel Catholic District School Board. And throughout his tenure, his unwavering commitment to education, passion for fostering a nurturing learning environment, and dedication to the well-being of students and staff have left an indelible mark on several school communities. Under Tom's guidance, many schools have not only achieved academic excellence, but have become environments for growth, compassion, and inclusivity. His career with Dufferin-Peel began in 1996 as a teacher at Queen of Heaven. He then served as a teacher at St. Mark's, St. Clair's, St. Veronica until 2012. He worked as a vice principal at Divine Mercy, St. Alfred, Queen of Heaven, St. Valentine, and St. Pio. Tom has served the St. Edmund community as principal since 2018. Beyond administrative duties, Tom has created an environment where every student and staff member feels valued, heard, and encouraged to reach their fullest potential. His commitment to fostering a sense of community rooted in faith and shared values has created a lasting legacy that will continue to shape the character of many school communities. Congratulations to Tom on a well-deserved retirement. May this new chapter be as fulfilling and rewarding as the legacy he leaves behind.
Thank
Chair,
you.
if I may move that with regrets and comments.
You don't need to move, but would
Okay,
you
so-
like to make comments?
So I do, actually. Thank you very
Okay.
much. This gentleman here, and he is nothing but a gentleman, is one man who's really been, just like the administrators within our system and the teachers and make up our system, one goal in mind is to make Dufferin-Peel the best it can be. Just being named as where he's gone to work with, you can see that he's actually spread his wealth of knowledge, information, character, and smile. It's truly with regret that I accept this as a trustee, but as a board, must accept it. Thomas is an exceptional man. Wish him good luck.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? If I could just say briefly, also accept Tom's retirement with regrets, but I also want to say, first time I met Tom, I thought he was Bill Clinton. So I was on stage and he was far away with my eyes. He does look like Bill Clinton. Anyway, that was the time that he looked like Bill Clinton. All right, next item, Madam Director.
Through the chair, H1 is the Ontario Catholic School Trustees Association resolutions for 2024. This resolution can be found on page 59, and Superintendent Vecchierino is here to respond to any questions associated with that resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Oh, I thought you said go ahead. Shut up.
Go ahead, Max.
So hello again, and continuing through the chair, as you're aware, every year we're asked to submit resolutions to your annual general meeting held in the spring. And this year, one has been shared by trustees, and we are looking for final approval of it this evening with a mover and a seconder so that we can submit it to Oxta to be brought forward at the annual general meeting. Happy to take any questions if there should be any. Thank you.
Trustee
I'll
Pascucci.
move it, Madam Chair, because you need that, but I have a question before we make the vote, and it's to you, Madam Chair, to the director. I just want a small, very small change where it says, whereas artificial intelligence, AI, is a useful tool to support student learning, should read, artificial intelligence is a tool that can support. In other words, I don't want to use the word useful because it's just a decision or pre-decision of what in fact it is or it is not. Just to make it as simple as possible so we can see what happens down the road. Let it read from this point forward, hopefully. Artificial intelligence, AI, is a tool that can support students' learning and assist teachers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Are there any other questions, comments? So Trustee Maria Pascucci is moving this with the amendments. Do I have a seconder? Who's going to second this one? Seconded by Trustee Sean Xavier. Any other changes that you want to put in? Or if we're good, should we vote on this now? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you,
you.
Max.
Through the chair, H2 is the motion recommended by the Faith and Program Committee of January 16, 2024, found on page 62.
Okay, we do have a motion. The motion basically reads that the Board of Trustees approve the terms of reference for the Faith and Program Committee 2024. Moved by Trustee Sean Xavier, seconded by Trustee Bria Corbett. Any questions? Trustee Mary Pascucci?
The fact of the matter is that where do we have in this following matters of jurisdiction, 1 to 6, where a person or a team or a group or a trustee can bring an issue forward? Maybe not germane specifically to the Faith and Program Committee. Where is that in there in terms of the following matters?
Through the chair, Article 4, review other faith and program matters or other matters pertaining to DPCDSB as per the procedural bylaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of clarification? Seeing none, we voted on it already. Thank you.
Through the chair, we have no notices of motion. We move to section J, which is questions asked by trustees.
Make a list. We have Trustee Ayanika, Trustee Bria Corbett, Trustee, any other? Okay, we'll start with Trustee Ayanika.
Madam Chair, I have multiple questions, so I will ask 3, stop, and then wait for my turn again.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, with the cold weather here and the experience that we've had in the past couple of weeks anyway, with the cold, mice seem to find their way into our schools. And I know that staff does everything that they possibly can to do what they can to keep them out. But in speaking to a pest control officer, he advised that Dufferin Peel was the only one that is not, Dufferin Peel was one of the only ones that does not allow traps on the outside of the building. Is that a fact? And if so, why?
Through the chair, General Manager Richard Mariah will respond.
Thank you, Trustee Anika, for that question. Through the chair, this is a liability issue where traps on the exterior of our buildings are susceptible to children going around, as well as domestic animals, people walking their dogs, etc., that can get involved with the traps and whatever poisons or whatever substances there are in those traps. So we don't allow that on the exterior of our sites. So that's the reason why we don't do it.
What do we do inside the school then? Because if you put the poison, which is ideal. Kids pick it up and put it in their mouth because they don't know what it is. What do we?
Well, usually through the chair, that the pest control company would place traps and conceal them so they're not out in the open. In certain corners and areas where mice might congregate, or might get in. Now, an additional measure that we are doing, our maintenance staff are out at schools checking the exterior doors for weather stripping and installing door sweeps so that we can minimize mice and other rodents from other things like pests from getting into our buildings. So that is something that's ongoing and usually throughout the year.
Can staff please provide an update on the on discussions with the city on licensing / lotteries?
To the chair, General Counsel Beck. My apologies, General Counsel Beck had asked permission not to be here this evening, so I do apologize. Trustee Anika, can we take that question back? Thank you.
No problem. As I said before with the human trafficking presentation on the IT aspect of things, is there an opportunity to have Mr. Richardson present to our secondary school students on that subject at one time so that it is heard by all students and paid for once? Is that a logistical nightmare, or is that something like I can imagine, but is it something that can maybe be spread even over a day, 3 times? Whatever we can do to educate, because the comments that I think what struck me most on the presentation was our ability to be routine. We go to that coffee shop, we go shopping at that store, we do this, we do that, all literally almost every day, the same time every day. So, and I think a lot of parents said, I didn't realize that they could track my child, 10-year-old child that has a cell phone, right? So things of that nature. So is there something that we can do to accommodate that for our kids?
Associate Director Amaral.
Thank you, Madam Director, and through the chair, thank you, Trustee Anika. Several staff attended that workshop as well, and we're quite impressed with the workshop. However, what we're committed to do is taking that workshop and working with that gentleman himself, the presenter, to ensure that it's modified for a more student-focused and student-centered approach, at which time he would be approved as a speaker, and then we can proliferate his presentations throughout our secondary schools. As trustees can appreciate, gathering 28,000 secondary schools at one time to watch although that would be very interesting and unique, it would pose significant challenges. But we are committed to taking the information back, modifying it, and working with him in order to ensure that it's appropriate and safe for all of our students.
Perfect. Thank you. That's number 3, Madam Chair.
Back on the list, the bottom. So Trustee Corbett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And like my colleague, Trustee Anika, I have more than 2. So I'll go at the bottom of the list as well after my first few. So through the chair, my first question is regarding our board's health resources on cannabis use. And my question is, can the board update the cannabis information that we have provided or can provide for parents and guardians, and also have a student-friendly version as well? Because the one that I found from our board dates back to 2018. And I've had parents express concerns, rightfully so, that the pot shops are now allowed in the city of Mississauga. And although the regulation states they are required to be 150 meters distance from a school, some have argued, and rightfully so, it's still very close proximity to schools. So I think we need a very intentional focus on education for our students and families, with an even greater effort aimed at prevention for the health and safety of those in our care. We also need some current resources from Peel Public Health, Kids Health Phone, Sick Kids Hospital has resources available on About Kids Health, their website. And similar to the human trafficking, and also very important, I think, perhaps a CCCSC community engagement event around cannabis use would also be beneficial for consideration.
Through the chair, thank you for those, excuse me, very excellent suggestions. We can absolutely look at the current information that's up on the website and ensure that it's the most up-to-date information and also student-friendly. We've been working together with the elementary principal and vice principal and the secondary principal and vice principals, as well as our special education, mental health, and well-being department to put together a committee to support in preparing and distributing information to all schools that will be shared through lessons with students in conjunction with Peel Public Health. Team is also working on presentations that would be delivered, presentations for students that will be delivered by staff, presentations for teachers that would be administered by principals at a staff meeting, and presentations for parents that could be shared at their local Catholic School Council meetings. And then finally, we are attempting to try and get a speaker for the upcoming Central Committee of Catholic School Council information session. So I thank you for really elevating that as a concern, and we'll take those suggestions back.
Thank you, Madam Director. And through you, Madam Chair, my next question is regarding observance days. I think it's important that our schools have consistency regarding the observance days, and also to ensure that our families have enough notice ahead of time so they can prepare. So for example, with the Bell Let's Talk Day on January 24th, we had some schools observing in various ways, whether they were wearing blue, they had wellness initiatives planned. We also had some schools that didn't recognize the importance of mental health. And while we know there are local school decisions, some of our observance days are also directly aligned with our multi-year strategic plan, and our schools would benefit from having more central direction regarding those expectations. Is that feasible?
Thank you. Yes, staff believe that there is an opportunity to bring more consistency and clarity and direction to the system, and to support them as well in whatever they need in terms of messaging or resources, et cetera, around observance days. And we think some of that can be handled centrally, and that would be our intent going forward.
Thank you, Madam Director. Madam Chair, my third question, if I may. No, this will be my third question. Okay. Thank you. My next question is regarding the standardization of our Catholic School Council meetings. And I understand there's been some important updates we've communicated to our schools regarding changes for our Catholic School Council meetings. And in an effort to ensure we continue to uplift the voices in our community and support this important work while maintaining Catholic community of culture and care, is there perhaps a summary tonight that could be shared on what parents could expect going forward?
Through the chair, a parent memo did go out to the principals as part of a communication last week. I believe we copied the trustees on that, and the memo explains what they can expect. I could have Associate Director Amaral give you highlights of what was in that memo, and schools may be sending this information as part of their next Catholic School Council meeting invitation, but we'll also send a reminder. But Associate Director Amaral.
So basically, the memo that went out as a school community message through School Messenger, or is imminently going out as related to an invitation to the next Catholic School Council meeting, outlined the process by which agenda items are put forward and the agenda is created. It makes reference to the school council, new school council mailbox by which parents can, to which parents can send a message in order to get something done on the agenda. And certainly it speaks to as well the nature of virtual versus in-person of the agenda and how Zoom links will be shared. So it's a step-by-step process in terms of our new consistent process with parents. And again, if they haven't been sent out, they should be being sent out imminently. It might be related as to the release of the invitation to the next Catholic School Council meeting.
Thank you. And if I could be put at the bottom of the list, Madam Chair, I have one last question.
Trustee Stefano Pascucci?
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you to staff. Can we get an update through issues and events on the, I guess, the installation of the marquee signs at all our schools? Possible? It's an update on when they're supposed to be completed.
Through the chair, just to clarify, it's the boulevard signs?
Yes,
It's,
yeah.
okay, yep, we can
What
provide
are
an
they called,
update.
boulevard
as-
signs? Okay, fine, I'll call.
I
I'll
just
call
want
it
to make
whatever
sure
you
we're
want to
speaking
call
about
it.
the same signs. But yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Also, can we please ensure that our priests are invited to as many school events as possible? As with trustees, we ask to be invited to everything. If we can make it, we can make it. If we can't, we can't. We please ensure that those invitations are also extended out to priests as well. That includes anything from school assemblies to church to picnics, whatever it is.
We will send out a reminder.
Thank you very much. And last question I have, Madam Chair, and may want to be put, last question. One of my schools, I was at a school parent council meeting or cat school council meeting, and the question was, when are we going to get AC in our school? Honestly, I understand, funds, we only get funds and as much funds as we can from the government. But the question is, why is the government spending $200 million on putting AC in senior homes and not caring about our kids? So can we bring that up to the government, please, to anybody that will listen? Because $200 million spent on seniors and nothing on our kids is a big problem for me.
Through the chair, perhaps that might be a question that is raised on the weekly ministers call.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Madam
So-
Chair. Thank you, Madam Director. Thank you, staff.
Thank you. Trustee Sean Xavier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question actually falls close along with what Trustee Corbett had mentioned in regards to cannabis use. Can we start looking into providing more information to our students in regards to vaping? Because that's been a huge thing going into this, not just this school year, but for some time now. And I think Associate Director Amaral has something to say.
I'm just nodding in full support through the chair, Trustee Xavier. Yes, that's also on the horizon and on our whiteboard. No, that's an expression from the pandemic in terms of what we're looking at in terms of supporting schools. So it's almost part and parcel with the cannabis because some students are actually ingesting the cannabis through a vaping mechanism, which is the latest thing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And sorry, Associate Director Amaral, I feel like I just put you on the spot.
Not at all.
Along with looking into that, have we looked into putting vape detectors? I believe that's what it's called within our school system. Because I'm sure I can speak to it, that we've had a lot of false alarms.
Yes, so we have looked into it and the technological and technical challenges that they would pose in a large secondary school, albeit a small one, would be quite substantial and not necessarily worth the effort of installing them, but we have investigated it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just through you, these false alarms that we get, are we getting charged by the city?
Through the chair, when there's a false alarm at a school, in my experience as a principal, you get a buy one. And they usually say very nicely that the next time they'll have to consider charging it, but I think they're very rare in terms of false fire alarms at schools, because again, we don't have vape alarms that would go off and cause those false alarms.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Trustee Mary Pascucci?
Right on, yeah. Good. A couple of items, actually 3 items, Madam Chair. One falls back to what Stefano Pascucci was talking about regarding signs. Some of them apparently have, there's one school which I'll mention to Matthew, was having trouble in the past adjusting the letters, et cetera. I myself received a few calls because of the sign, so they're obviously doing something. And just there's some standardization that goes out there in terms of the message, et cetera. And it's quite nice right now. It says Ward 3 trustee is whoever, whatever. The second point, Mr. Chairman, and this goes through you to Matthew. Matthew, on May 26th, a notice went out to the community, and you're kind enough to send it to me, and thank you. It's regarding a new pathway that's going for St. Sophia and connecting with Galeden Park. Could you come back on the, with the issues and events, sort of the status where on this happening? Because what's occurring is that the Burnham Thorpe Community Center is opening up soon. It's very close to St. Sophia. There's going to be potentially some construction there, and I've got a little concern relative to the transfer, relative to the traffic area.
Yeah, through the chair, be happy to do that.
Thank you, Matthew. The other day, and this is the last item, Madam Chair. The other day, you were all kind enough to give me a unanimous letter of support regarding a home that was sharing the same boundary as one of our high schools. And we gave the motion, it went through nicely, and what happened, I might have mentioned it already to you, but what happened was that in fact it was accepted as that this will not happen in this community. I want to say thank you for that. That letter was exceptional. I've been told there's going to be an appeal, with of course what you expect, but the fact of the matter is it's opened up some eyes, some issues that we should be looking at down the road. First thing is that there's a massive increase of, and you got to remember, this is over 4 jurisdictions, Caledon, Brampton, Mississauga, and Orangeville. In between, of course. Bed and breakfast locations are expanding, exploding is more the we're not expanding, but explosion, so to speak. It's about 2,500 to 3,000 units in the city of Toronto and Mississauga. So if you start looking at that, there's some things that come out of this. Where I want to go with this, Madam Chair, is eventually talk to the committee, not the committee, senior staff, what's going to happen. People are living in cars and campers. And the other day I went by a parking lot, and sure enough, there were 2 campers there. I thought, well, that's fine, and Walmart allows them to camp and all this stuff. When I started looking into it, in fact, these are people and that's their home. So as we move this forward, certain things started popping up in concern of mine. I'm trying to look forward maybe 5, 10 years. Fact of the matter is, our population is going down in our schools. People who live in these particular campers or in B&B homes of some sort are transient, best, maybe stable at best, transient at worst. So we're taking in children potentially, and then what ends up happening is that these children leave, but let's not fool ourselves. They're not going to be Catholic students. Chances of that at the elementary level is going to be such that, in fact, you're going to have individuals who are literally moving into community and moving on. This happened to a huge group of individuals who came home because of a war, and they've gone back because of the cost of housing. So with people living in cars and campers, student population coming down in our schools, and this is not going to help. Some of them, there's one near my place. I walk by it. There's every evidence that there's children in that house, but you never see them. And what I mean by evidence, everything from bicycles, tricycles, and what have you. You never see the children. And so I like to bring this to, I sort of touched on it the other day, a couple of meetings ago, and I'm sort of crystallizing this thought now. I'd like to speak to our staff and seeing, am I just wrong? Which has been known to happen a couple of times, Stefan. Or am I correct? We have to look at something in the future. No answer, good. The idea is that, primary and secondary, what's going to happen in population? Where are people living? Or are they getting picked up by bus? Do they have the money that help them grow their family? We're going through some very, very difficult times. Then the idea of standardization over those 4 jurisdictions comes into play as well. Went to a meeting the other night. Unfortunately, it was the same night that we had the Bruno put on. And unfortunately, I had to attend this meeting. And what occurred there was an opening of an event. In other words, this is what's happening. Let's take a look at this. So there's no question it's going to happen. It's going to expand. How it's going to expand where is another question. What I wanted to bring up about the city the other night, what's happening is the city of Mississauga is coming out, I think, in another 3-4 weeks. And the last thing I want to do is get involved in a jurisdiction I'm not even supposed to be involved in. This is where this very fine line is looking at when I talk to staff. But in fact, they're coming out with a bylaw of sorts that will affect us in some manner because they're not asking us, and I'm afraid to say or ask the question if they ever asked us for our opinion. And I don't expect them to, they don't have to, I suppose. But the fact is that it affects us directly where our money is. So through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to bring this to the attention of staff. And I'd like to meet with staff if possible. Anybody else is very welcome, of course. And tell me, am I wrong? Fine, then okay. I'm correct. You want, and I'm not going to pull this up, et cetera. It may be an issue. And here I talk to Alex or Max. Here's I talk to Max and say, Max, let's put this in the back burner because it might be a motion for next year. So if I may ask this question, staff, can we meet down the road either as an ad hoc basis or sometime where we can sort of flesh this? I just want to get some more information. I'll ask as staff gets. Sorry about that. I was just about to- Not housing, the process, the effect on different field.
Through the chair, I can have at least Superintendent Matthew Thomas connect with you offline just to get a better understanding of what you're observing.
Student trustee Nathan?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. In light of the recently retired administrators, do we have a rough percentage of how many newly hired administrators are racialized? And this is because from here in our delegation today, I find it really important to have more representation with racialized administrators through our system.
Through the chair, we're currently working on some more detailed data, especially as in response to what Trustee D'Souza requested at Faith and Program. And we hope to bring that before the trustees.
Okay, and does that plan also include like adding something onto the curriculum to ensure there's more representation with like racialized communities?
Through the chair, I would say they're two different things. We're working on the plan to give an indication or at least to be able to provide a narrative of how we have been deliberately trying to diversify our workforce, especially as it relates to principals and vice principals. The question around curriculum in our classrooms that is more reflective of the students whom we serve. I think you heard from Superintendent Max Vecchiolino this morning that that is being integrated into the next iteration of the multi-year strategic plan. But it has also been an ongoing work, especially through our program and learning services department, for which Superintendent Carmel Murphy has responsibility for. So we do continue to look for opportunities to get those resources and books and et cetera in the classroom, but also supporting teachers in how they can use those resources. So we know we have a lot of work to go in that area, but we are very committed to continuing that work.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. I just remember at the OCSTA Catholic Trustee Seminar, we had a discussion about many school boards integrating the Indigenous Writers English course, like mandating it. And so I wanted to like open up the idea of mandating the Black Voices in Literature course, right? And having that inclusive environment. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before I go to the next trustee, I just want to make sure that student trustee, when you ask question, it has to be through the chair. Okay?
Through the chair, my apologies.
Thank you. I know, we forget. Next one is trustee Earl D'Souza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you, my question was about electronic boulevard signs across our schools. Is there any standard that we've given our schools as to what needs to be displayed on that?
Through the chair, we haven't, but we can. Because it sounds like maybe it might be a good idea to do that. And if trustees have certain things that they want displayed on it, I know that in between certain things, we use that as an opportunity to also advertise the trustee for the community, so the community has an awareness of who they can call. But we can certainly address that with our schools and identify certain things that probably would be standard. A great example might be observance days, or certainly we use them when there's registration coming up, information night, curriculum night, report cards, all of that. But let us take that back and see if we can ensure some standardization.
through you, Madam Chair, just a follow-up to that is, do staff get information when these electronic boards just have one message stuck on it and it doesn't move and it stays there for a week or at least a week so far?
We wouldn't, but we can certainly remind the principals that they should take advantage of the boulevard signs as a great tool for communication. So I have a webcast tomorrow with the administrators when I go over, board meetings. That would be an opportunity for me to elevate that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director.
Okay, to this point, yes, go ahead. Closer.
Where's the cost of one of these signs? Ballpark.
Through the chair, depending on whether there's electricity that's already out there, so replacing an existing one, you're probably looking around $20,000 a sign.
All right. Thank you. Next one is Trustee Thomas. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This question is our Associate Director, Daniel Bianco and Matthew Thomas. As you know, ascension of our Lord School, having a track and field that's in a progress. We want to know what is the progress at present stage. And there is new election coming for a city of Mississauga. So before that, something will happen or not? Any progress?
Through the chair, thank you for the question, Trustee Thomas. So I am pleased to report that the city of Mississauga has reached out to our team at Dufferin Peel to set up a project team with respect to the planning, design, planning, and development of the project. We've had an initial meeting. The city of Mississauga team is leading the work as most of the new track and field facility will be on city property. One of the aspects, and just generally the scope of the project, the design is very similar to what was presented to the community at our previous community meetings. The project charter is still in draft that the city team is putting together. We're expecting that to be finalized probably within the next couple of weeks. There is also at this point a likely public information session that will be scheduled in the coming months, hopefully before March, to provide more information to the community as well.
A follow-up that. Do we having any lease agreement between the city of Mississauga and the Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board? Is any progress on that part? Because the land belongs to city and we are putting $2 million on that. So we have some kind of a security that have to have a lease agreement to use the track and field for our students.
So through the chair, the agreement actually comes in two different parts. The first part is the capital construction. Trustee Thomas is correct that we've already received approval to use the $2 million capital contribution from the board towards that project. The second part is the ongoing operation and maintenance. And that also will be a shared use agreement between Dufferin Peel and the city of Mississauga, in which, similar to what we've done with other joint use facilities between the city and Dufferin Peel, we have explicit hours of use that are exclusive to Dufferin Peel and hours of use that will be exclusive for the municipality.
Thank you.
To that effect? To the same? Oh, okay. So before I go back, so go ahead, Herman. Before I go back to Bruno and Bria.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. At the Oxta seminar about a week and a half ago, when Minister Lecce came on to talk to us, he mentioned two serious issues that he said needed to be addressed right away, and he seemed to be alluding to the ministry coming up with guidelines or a policy. And the two issues were the use of cell phones in schools, which he said was a great distraction. And secondly, the second issue was vaping, and he mentioned that Canada is one of the highest users of vaping in the whole world. So it could become an epidemic. So my question is, what is the current policy of use of cell phones in secondary?
Through the chair, there is a personal electronic device policy that was originally, it's actually gone through a cycle of review. I'm not sure where it's at in terms of that cycle of review. I think it's a very articulate policy and a reasonable policy. I'm not so sure it's in the best interests of us to be removing or not allowing students to bring their cell phones in their mobile phones into classrooms. But it also talks about, it clearly articulates expectations around their use and that they're not to be used in ways that are not related to the instruction at hand. What we can do, though, in anticipation of what might be coming out from the ministry, is get some sense from our administrators around whether or not the teachers are reporting that this is becoming an increasing distraction. And that will give us an opportunity to start thinking about bringing that policy forward for additional review. But we would probably also want to wait and see what the ministry is coming out with as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Now I'm going back to the list. Trustee Bruno Enica.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've heard from a few parents that the process that is utilized to choose who can get into SHISM programs is flawed and unfair. We have a process at our SHISM schools where the program is highly sought after, that is transparent for all and not at the call of some.
Through the chair, it would be our hope and our expectation that all of our programs, because we are publicly funded, provide equal access and transparency for all. So I thank you for raising that, because that will give us an opportunity to have a better understanding of the admission into not only the specialist high skill major programs, but also our regional programs as well. And our view to conducting that review would be to ensure that there's some consistent messaging across the system that results in transparency to parents who are interested in these programs, and also access, how access. So for example, we know that some programs require criteria because they're specialized. And so as long as I would envision for consistency and fairness across the system, that the first step is to ensure that everyone who's interested in the program meet the criteria. If they meet the criteria, then the second step would be, if you have more subscribers to that program than you do spaces, what we will be discussing with the secondary schools is that really it should come in line with all our other processes associated with oversubscribed programs, which is a random selection process. So as long as everybody's met that criteria, it really should be a random selection process. So we will go back and review the processes right now and work with our principals and vice principals around how we ensure fairness, consistency, transparency to all those programs.
Through you to staff, Madam Chair, through you to staff, can staff give me an update on where we are with the Porta Pack removal at Maryfick?
Thank you. Through the chair, we have identified the Porta Pack demolition and removal in our 2024 facility renewal project list. We're currently in the process of finalizing the entire list through the facilities team, and we hope to have more information to share with all of our trustees in the coming weeks.
Will that, if through you, Madam Chair, will that require that list to go to the ministry for funding?
Through the chair, we've actually been able to identify a source of funding through school renewal that will be able to do that on our own.
So
So just to, through the chair, to clarify, under the funding, the grants for student need funding for school renewal, there is, without getting too technical, there is a portion of that funding that can be set aside for operating use. And so while typically the Ministry of Education would prefer that school boards not use school renewal and use it for other needs which actually might improve or better existing accommodations, as opposed to just tearing down and removing something. In this particular case, we actually asked ministry staff about this, noting the concern that had been raised that we've got a number of similar types of porta packs, relocatable classroom modules that have been around for quite some time and are either sitting vacant or are in a very poor state of repair, or both. And so they've said that we can address that through the use of a portion of school renewal funding that is set aside for more operating needs. It's not a lot of money, I have to confess, but we are going to target that funding specifically for these types of projects for 2024. We will have ongoing conversations with the ministry about how we might address these in the future. But for now, the plan is to use that funding for Mary Fix for this year.
as much, through you, Madam Chair, as much as it's music to my ears, I'm worried that some of the school renewals, that funding requirements that we need aren't going to be met because the province may not. I would prefer the funding to come from the province versus from your back pocket. The board funding. I'm all for it, you know, but if it's going to hurt another school, then I have a bit of an issue and prefer that the province of Ontario fund it.
Through the chair, one would argue that it is technically the province of Ontario funding it. It is school renewal funding that comes directly from the Ministry of Education.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. My last question. Today, and I apologize to staff, today I got another email from Michelle asking for suspension or expulsion. She needed one more trustee for whatever the function was. The challenge that I'm having, and I've noticed significantly, is it's either in the morning, very early afternoon, when in fact in the past, if it was at 4 o'clock, I would try to schedule a few things off my schedule to be able to contribute to the burden. Well, let me rephrase that, with the job responsibility of my colleagues. I don't believe that it should be just a specific number of trustees that are always called upon because the rest of us have work obligations. So I'm wondering why the change, and is that, I know some of it is parent need, and I get it, I understand it. I've been in situations where I was on a committee and they said they had to have it earlier and I couldn't make changes at work to be able to attend. I had to say no, but I'm wondering why all of a sudden finding that.
Through the chair, we'll take that back and ensure that the time frame is expanded.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The last one. Trustee Bria Corbett.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. My question is regarding the homework policy. So our homework policy dates back to 2009, and there was an update back in 2017. Is there a possibility we can have this policy come forward at a upcoming bylaw and policy review meeting?
Through the chair, we're already full for April, but we'll bring it to the April 16 bylaw and policy committee meeting.
Thank you. And
Meaning we already have a full agenda for the
February, right?
Sorry, the February bylaw and policy. So we'll bring it to the April one.
Thank you. Through the chair, Yes, we've had some parents reach out about concerns and questions around homework and when I refer to them to the current policy, I think it could use some improvements. But maybe be in the absence of having the new policy, we're heading into term 2 for secondary students and elementary as well. Is there an opportunity to communicate maybe some of the baseline expectations so parents and guardians have an idea?
Through the chair, we can do that based on the current policy. But the current policy had some really good family-centered, child-centered, right, direction to the school. So we can revisit that with the system.
Thank you. Through the chair, I've got one more question, Madam Chair. Just to tag on to what Trustee Stefano Pascucci and Trustee D'Souza's questions around boulevard signs. St. Aloysius Gonzaga Catholic Secondary School. I share it with Chair Del Rosario and Trustee Valoria. It's still in need of replacing the boulevard sign. That sign hasn't been operational for a number of years, and it was anticipated to be completed back in the fall of 2023. Is there an update on that?
Thank you. Through the chair, the anticipated project completion for the boulevard sign at Gonzaga is late summer, perhaps into early fall of 2024. We are dealing with quite a volume of school renewal work just generally. So unfortunately, we were not able to meet the 2023 timelines, but we are hoping to get that done this summer.
Thank you. And through the chair, if it can be expedited even before that, because St. Aloysius Gonzaga is a large secondary school. It's also extended French programming. It's on a high traffic street, Erin Center Boulevard, and it's also a shared use facility with the Erin Meadows Community Center. And this sign's really important, not just messaging for the school, but also for the community. And where other schools have existing signage that they're getting replaced, this school is in urgent need of a sign that can also communicate.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we're moving into the next item in our agenda. Declared interest item. Okay, so we have a declared interest item, the minutes of the regular board meeting, December 12, 2023, items A7, item K1. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Trustee Darrell D'Souza, seconded by Trustee Herman Valoria. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Just So our next item in the agenda is we're moving into in camera that the committee of the whole move into a closed meeting as discussions will involve the disclosure of intimate, personal, or financial information in respect of a member of the board or committee or an employee. Could I have a mover, please, to move into in camera? Moved by Anisha Thomas, seconded by Trustee Stefano Pascucci. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. We are now moving to in camera. So we'll be back at what? 8:55. 8:55. So to the people watching on YouTube, we will now be going into in camera. Thank you.
Really?
We now ask for the report.
Okay. Madam Chair, the in-camera committee of the whole approved in-camera board minutes, received administrative appointment and transfers, asked trustees for the in-camera nature, and there are recommended motion to the Board of Trustees to consider.
Thank you, Vice Chair Thomas. So the recommended motions to the Board of Trustees to consider that the Board of Trustees approve the motions associated with Report L10A in regard to a personnel matter. Would I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Trustee Sean Xavier, seconded by Trustee Stefano Pascucci. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. That the Board of Trustees approve the motion contained within Report L10B in regard to a personnel matter. Moved by Trustee Bruno Ainica, seconded by Trustee Anisha Thomas. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. The Board of Trustees, the third motion is that the Board of Trustees approve motion contained within Report L10C in regard to a personnel matter. Do I have a mover and seconder? Moved by Trustee Darrell D'Souza, seconded by Trustee Sean Xavier. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 27, 2024. Could I have somebody move adjournment, please? Moved by Trustee Mary Pascucci, seconded by Trustee Darrell D'Souza. All in favor? Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Any opposed? Nobody is opposed. Marian is opposed.